Hello, welcome back to the number one show in sports and entertainment, Earl Knows It All. And I am your host, Earl Hill. And today there's big trouble in Tuscaloosa. Yes, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. This has been a team that has been at the top of college football for so long, over almost a decade now, close approaching to a decade. The Nick Saban era has been amazing. They've won multiple championships. They've dominated the sport, but Saturday was definitely a low point for them. Unfortunately, they were very pedestrian to say the least, man. They end up winning that football game against I don't want to say lowly, but against a far inferior football team, or it should have been anyway, South Florida, University of South Florida down in Tampa. It was wet conditions, a wet, rainy game, but they ended up winning that game 17-3. They scored a touchdown late to make it 17-3 to make the margin of victory look better. However, for most of that game, it was a 3-3 tie. And I had to check my TV to make sure it wasn't broken. I texted a couple Alabama fans that are near and dear to my heart. Of course, I did not get a response immediately because, they were probably in shock as well. What I will say, though, is they did pull that game out. And, the most important thing is to win, I guess, survive and advance at this point. But it leads me to ask this question. Is the Nick Saban reign over college football finally over? Now, you're speaking to a guy who is a Georgia Bulldog fan who, of course, we won the last two national championships. So I've already stated that this was on the horizon. A lot of people maybe were in denial, but I don't think I thought the fall would be this precipitous as far as them falling out of the top 10. I still thought they were probably the toughest competition for Georgia as far as competing for the national championship. But this year, it appears that that is not the case. And the main reason is Alabama does not have a quarterback at this point. Now, they started out with Jalen Milroe the first two games of the season. Of course, they lost at home by 10 points to Texas, 34-24 2 weeks ago. And Jalen Milroe was benched after that, essentially. He was benched in favor of one Mr. Buchner, Tyler Buchner, a transfer from Notre Dame who made the start on Saturday. And let's just say Mr. Buchner was not much better. Actually, he was pretty much worse than what we had saw from Milroe in his first two starts. Buchner didn't turn the football over as far as any interceptions or anything, but he was 5 for 14 for 34 yards. Now, I haven't played football in a very long time. I think I still got some eligibility left, though. I could be like a fifth-year senior or something, maybe. I'm sure I could probably go out there with Alabama's offensive line and, complete a pass for 34 yards. Just maybe. If they gave me enough time, I could make something happen. Now, I haven't done any athletic feats like this in a long time, but I'm just saying this guy's on scholarship and he was not very good. So he ended up getting benched by one Mr. Nick Saban in the game for their future, I guess, star quarterback. Maybe he's a 5-star recruit, Ty Simpson, but Ty Simpson did not fare much better. He was 5 for 9, so a little bit better completion percentage, but he did finish with only 73 yards. And yes, if you're scoring at home, that is 107 yards of passing from the Alabama quarterbacks against South Florida. The reason this is a big deal is because Mr. Saban did announce today that he'll be going back to Jalen Milroe. Jalen didn't see any time in that game. It's kind of peculiar why they didn't go back to him in that game, but he will be the starter as they take on Ole Miss, SEC rival. Lane Kiffin, of course, has been chomping at the bit to try to beat Alabama, his former boss, Nick Saban. This would be a very interesting game, man. You got Dart, who looks like a pretty good quarterback, man, for Ole Miss. And, the spread offense and what Lane Kiffin wants to do has given Alabama some trouble at times. So the fact that they don't have an offense that's going to be able to kind of go blow for blow could be a very, very big issue for them. And we could see possibly 2 losses at home in the season. They've already fell out of the top 10, and I have this stat here. That loss, or actually wasn't even a loss. It felt like when is a win a loss? When it's against South Florida and you're supposed to blow them out and bounce back from an actual loss, and you don't do that, and you end up with a 17-3 margin of victory, and your quarterbacks look horrible. That's when a win is a loss. So Alabama, for the first time since September of 2015, fell out of the top 10. Now, if you're saying to yourself, that's a very long time. That's over 8 years in the top 10. Yes, that's the second longest streak. It was 128 consecutive AP polls that have come out, or you want to say consecutive weeks in the top 10. Only second to the great Miami Hurricanes teams of the 80s and early 90s, the U, that went for 137 consecutive weeks in the top 10 from 1985 to 1993. So that streak is ended. You saw a home streak against non-conference opponents end last week. A lot of things that have been staples of this era for this Alabama team, it is kind of fallen by the wayside now. And I'm sure Nick Saban is trying to kind of, calm the fans and weather the storm and say, hey, he has some positivity about the way his team fought through that game and came out victorious, the resiliency that they showed. But a lot of people in Alabama are not necessarily agreeing with that. And I would even go to say that maybe the team isn't agreeing with that, because a report came out that a players-only meeting was held on Sunday by the Alabama Crimson Tide football team. Now, one of the captains of the team, offensive lineman, I don't have his name here currently, but he indicated that it was a good meeting. The guys were able to get everything off their chest and express their feelings, and now everyone is on the same page. We got a quarterback controversy, or no quarterback controversy, maybe. You got players-only meetings. Nick Saban looked like he was defeated. I know it was a wet, rainy game, but he looked pretty bad on that walk through the tunnel down in Tampa at that game. And this is something that we have to keep an eye on, man, to see what's going to happen. Is this the end of an era as we know it, as far as the reign of terror that Alabama had on college football? In my personal opinion, like I said, I predicted this a couple years ago when Kirby Smart left that staff and went to Georgia and had the blueprint for what Alabama had done. I think as far as we're concerned, Alabama probably won't be or have that stranglehold on college football the way they did previously. That's my prediction. I do think, now I will say this, I do think they'll handle their business against Ole Miss. I'd be very surprised if they lose another game at home. I think they should right the ship. Maybe Milroe can cut down on some of the interceptions or turnovers and, make some simple plays, and their defense has to be much better than it was against Texas. They should be able to right the ship. They still have everything in front of them as far as the SEC is concerned, but if they lose this game in the SEC, at that point, all bets may be off, and we may be looking at Alabama maybe falling out of the top 25, which would be sacrilegious at this point. A lot of people who are Alabama fans now, I've been around for a long time, I don't remember them claiming Alabama back when Mr. Shula was the head coach, or they had the controversy with the other coach that they tried to bring in that left, Francione or whatever his name was. Before then, it was the last time you saw some sustained success, I would say, from Alabama was the Gene Stallings era. And you had a very long drought from 93, 92, 93. It's the Jay Barker, David Palmer era in Alabama until Nick Saban came back on the scene and kind of righted the ship. So is this the time now that those Bama fans who've been riding high on this Saban era will go back to that and have some mediocre football? It appears to be the case. You guys, make sure you stay tuned. And as always, like I said, tell me what you think about this. If you're a Roll Tide fan, let me know. If you think it's over with, what needs to be done? Why don't you have a quarterback? Comment below. Tell me what your feelings are on this season, how things are going. Is this the end of the era for you guys, or is it just a blip in the road and things will get back on track? As always, I'm asking you guys to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. We got the best in college football, the NFL, NBA basketball. We give you a little bit of pop culture as well. We do it all because Earl knows it all. As always, I want to leave you with this precious gem. Put your trust in God, because through him, all things are possible. You guys have a great day, and may the source be with you.